Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to Step Back Tonight for today, August 31st, 2021, the last day of August. Hi, I'm your host, Tristan. I can just switch to the thingy. I stream on Mondays and Tuesdays on Mondays from 12 till 2, although this week we're doing it on Thursday, with Mia Mulder, called Money Discourse. It's very fun. And on Tuesday nights from 7 to 9, which is what you're watching right now, I do Step Back Tonight, where we go through the news, talk about stuff, and then answer some questions and call it an evening. I go by he, him pronouns. You can find my work at stepbackhistory.com/stepbackhist, or you can find my work at stepbackhistory.com. If you want to support my work, I have a Patreon, patreon.com/stepbackhistory. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can help the stream out by giving a Twitch Prime subscription. It costs no extra to you, but it does help the channel and, my life work. And, of course, any subscriptions, bits, super chats, all those things are very welcome. They help keep the lights on, literally now. So much appreciated. If you guys want to see my latest video, which we're gonna watch through today because it's a new one, the end of the 9/11 era, my video on, the title's kind of self-explanatory, isn't it? And then my next video, which I can talk about a little bit, maybe if people are interested. But basically, it's Step Back's 6th birthday in a few weeks, and so what I decided to do is make a video where I revisit my first video. That should be fun. And yeah, if you have questions you want to submit to future streams, I'm going to give you a link to a place where you can submit them. It's sort of a Google form. You submit the question there, and I hang on to them for a month. So if it'll be there. And what else we got? And if you're new here, if this is your first time showing up, welcome. First of all. Second, we have a really great Twitch community, so please make yourself known in the chat because we are all friends here. Cheers. So, that's my kind of open things. So let's see, how's chat feeling tonight? How are we feeling? Hey? Is Mia all right? As far as I know. I think she only canceled the stream because she had a deadline she was working towards for a video that I think just came out like a couple minutes ago. So she was just busy. How do I look so good? That is very kind of you to say. Hey, we've got a new person, Nick. Nice. Excellent. Everyone looks like they're in good spirits. I'm in good spirits. If you can see this wonderful new thingy, that's my YouTube silver play button, everybody. It arrived. Delta is no joke. Yeah, I saw that like Alberta is getting like 3,000 cases a day. It's absolutely bananas. I'm sorry that this is what you have to go through. This isn't booze. This is just water with iced tea squirt juice in it. Got to keep my throat lubricated so that I can talk for 2 straight hours. I don't know how people do their 8-hour streams. All right. So, first story tonight is about, of course, the stuff with the Taliban. Let's get... So, yeah. I mean, no getting around. There's the unfolding situation in Afghanistan. So this is essentially the U.S., as of yesterday, has pulled out of Afghanistan. The due date has passed, and now the war in Afghanistan's officially over. So there you go. Hours after the last foreign forces withdrew from Afghanistan, Taliban leaders walked victorious through the Kabul airport, flanked by guards dressed in Special Forces combat kit, inspecting destroyed U.S. military equipment. Taliban spokesman Zabihullah Mujahid led a group of officials onto the runway, a broad grin of this usually stoic face. Congratulations to Afghanistan, this victory belongs to us all, Mujahid told reporters. America was defeated. They could not achieve their targets through military operations, he said. The Taliban's Badri 313 Special Forces unit posed for pictures brandishing U.S. rifles and flying the group's white flag. Once one of the most secure sites in Afghanistan, the airport's passenger terminal was left in chaos with empty bullet casings littering the floor near all entrances. Step back, Street Boys. We do have the Orc Gang, which is sort of like a term for people who watch the stream. Due to a weird conversation I had many moons ago now. But yeah. Let's see what we got for the next bit here. The Taliban was the center of a chaotic evacuation since the Taliban took control of the country on August 15th. The U.S. and its allies airlifted more than 100,000 people, both foreigners and Afghans, who feared reprisals from their new rulers. Ensuring the security of the airport is a key issue, and the Taliban has repeatedly said they would not accept any foreign military presence in Afghanistan. They are in talks with Turkey to take over civilian operation of the airport. No deal's been reached yet. The departing U.S. military disabled several aircraft and armored vehicles, as well as a high-tech rocket defense system at the airport, a U.S. general has said. Orc Gang, how do you spell it? Orc with a K. It's all good, man. This, you have to have the emotional stamina to get through all of this, like, bad news, so take from it what you will. Kevin Logan is streaming tonight, so if I get bored, I can go and watch that for a while instead of petulantly sniping. Okay. Good stuff. Orc is in Warhammer. Yeah, it comes from a stream I did, I think, almost 2 years ago now, where I kind of pointed out that, like, that leftists should, if fascists are going to take over Warhammer 40k fandom and unironically get into, like, what's supposed to be the evil, unreliable narrator that frames all of the lore of the thing, that then we could just be orcs. They're undestroyable. They their power comes from the fact that they've got numbers and that psychic gestalt thing, and so, and they're way more fun, and primarily because they're all goofy and like soccer hooligans, it really pisses off the Warhammer 40k fanboys who want the lore to be very serious and such. So all of that kind of fits. Orcs are the only ones in 40k that look like they're having any fun. Exactly. Got to the point where I actually have a tattoo of a Warhammer 40k orc drawn by Scutch on my back. Hoping Ontario weathers the storm. We have high vax numbers at least. Yeah, the number of cases is already starting to, the fourth wave has kind of crested. Actually, I don't know that for sure, but just yesterday we got fewer cases than the day before by like 200. So that's nice. And also we're in like a situation where we're like Ontario's getting like 700 cases a day in a province that has like 14.7 million people, which is not bad. And also no deaths. We're getting very few deaths because of a high vaccination rate. So Ontario looks like, but what's it called? After this weekend, Ontario's kids are going back to school, and the kids are not vaccinated. They're too young. So we'll see what happens. Yay. does look like maybe Ontario is putting together some sort of vaccine passport system, like BC and Quebec are doing. So hopefully that'll get out, because I know that like the Quebec has a vaccine passport app or something like that they're using. I would like to get some sort of thing so that we can do lockdown for all the people who are unvaccinated and kind of keep going. Really don't want another lockdown. So let's go back to Afghanistan. The military has disabled several aircraft and armored vehicles. So I don't know if you guys know this, but a lot of times it's like more expensive to take a lot of army, like a lot of military crap. It's more expensive to bring it home than it is to just leave it there or sell it at like an extreme discount, like by the pound type thing. So a lot of munitions are just like left there. And I guess they're trying to make sure that the more deadly stuff is at least disabled. Central Command Head General Kenneth McKenzie said 73 aircraft were demilitarized or rendered useless by U.S. troops before they wrapped up the 2-week evacuation of the Taliban-controlled country. He said the Pentagon, which built a force of nearly 6,000 troops to occupy and operate Kabul's airport during the airlift, left some 70 MRAP armored tactical vehicles, which cost up to $1 million each, that it disabled before leaving. The U.S. also left behind the CRAM system, counter-rocket artillery and mortar, that's used to protect the airport from rocket attacks. The system also helped fend off 5 rocket barrages from the Islamic State in Khorasan province, ISKP or ISIS-K, an ISIL affiliate in Afghanistan on Monday. Makes sense. Why do I think nativism and nationalism are making huge strides in the West? Multiple things. First of all, I think it's just the inevitable consequence of 4 decades of austerity and growing inequality. So everybody's lives, like everyone's like, if you look at like all of like the economic factors that like see like how Westerners' lives have been, standard of living has been going steadily down over time, not linked to productivity. Inequality is going up, and we were raised in a culture that sort of always sees, doing better than your parents as like a major thing, and so we weren't able to accept, doing worse than our parents. So things like economically, like it looks like we're now several generations deep into not seeing the future as optimistic. And, when that kind of stuff happens, there's 2 ways you can go, really. I guess 3 ways. You can deny, and just think that you didn't work hard enough. You become a liberal or whatever. You can, study and find out what actually causes everything to be going the way it is, the kind of central, the sort of long-term project of stripping our infrastructure for parts and privatizing everything, and the sort of like horrors of late capitalism, and then you become a socialist and you become a left-winger guy, and then the last is you scapegoat somebody. Immigrants, Jews, women who won't have sex with you, whatever it is your thing is, and you become a reactionary or a fascist or some sort of backlash. And that is sort of why nativism and nationalism are making huge strides, is that a lot of times it's like a resource threat thing combined with scapegoats, propaganda. Like there's been a right-wing propaganda effort in the United States for decades at this point. You can look at social media factors. I don't like to lean on those as hard as other people do, but there is something to be said about radicalization on the right, because right-wing politics is good money, and people who have money are willing to support it, and all of the recommendation algorithms on the social media platforms have been pushing people in that direction. So it's a bunch of things. Many of them are informed or amplifying each other. That's about all I can say. Alrighty. So let's get back to the... Alright. So that's the first story. Second story. So this is fun. I don't know where this is going, but it's pretty wild. Yeah, if you are... just like this trigger warning, this is a story about not only like the false flag Sandy Hook shooting, but also about child pornography. Nothing explicit, obviously, and nothing like it's just like mentioning it. But I'll show you guys the story. Essentially, child porn was found on the documents that Alex Jones sent to the lawyers of the Sandy Hook families. So if you guys don't know what's going on, Alex Jones is being sued. There's a lawsuit going on between the families of the victims of the Sandy Hook school shooting that happened in 2012 and Alex Jones of InfoWars. And in that, there's a phase called discovery, which is when the lawyers from different sides request documents and evidence and things like that from the other side. And this is a situation in which the lawyers for the parents of the Sandy Hook victims put in a request for a bunch of like they would be able to get like all of Alex Jones's emails or all of InfoWars' emails or various types of things. And as part of the discovery, Alex Jones's people sent over to the lawyers child pornography, which is kind of wild. So that's where we're at. But let's see what the story is, because this hasn't really blown up, which makes me think that there's some sort of explanation, but let's see. Lawyers representing the family of the Sandy Hook massacre are suing conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, said that they've received child pornography and documents they were sent by InfoWars founder, according to court papers filed Monday in Connecticut. Consultants working with the lawyers discovered the images in the documents that were requested during a court hearing in April, the filing states. A lawyer representing the families immediately after the FBI, according to the filing. The FBI advised counsel that reviewed numerous additional legal images, which had apparently been sent to InfoWars' email address. During a segment on InfoWars last week, Jones's lawyer Norm Pattis said that the FBI cleared Jones after an inquiry found that there was no suggestion that anyone here wanted that material, ever looked at it, or even knew about it. So it sounds like they got sent child porn in an email. And then they, instead of, they then turn that email over to the lawyers. So, yeah. What this speaks more to, really, is not so much the, fact of them, I don't think that Alex Jones is in the trade of child pornography. That's not really what we're talking about here. What I think is more likely is that they were so sloppy with their turning over of data to the lawyers that they just copied over unsolicited emails that contain this stuff. That's what it sounds like. Which is fucking just shows just how bad an operation is already going on at InfoWars. That was a thing they didn't catch. Yeah, they get hundreds of emails, most of them spam, and don't bother checking it. Yeah, I agree. The thing is that they didn't think to review all of the documents that they sent over to the lawyers. The FBI did not respond to... So, yeah. Jones not immediately respond to a request for comment, but InfoWars described the emails as a malware attack attempting to embed child porn on Jones's computers. During a profanity-fueled segment of the Alex Jones Show on Friday, Jones said he was offering a $1 million reward to anyone who could track down the person who tried to set me up with child porn. Oh, goddamn. Are we sure he isn't into that shit? I mean, he's reprehensible. I wouldn't be surprised, but also, this isn't it, you know? Monday's filing also says that Jones threatened Chris Mattei, one of the lawyers working for the Sandy Hook families, during an InfoWars segment in which Jones pounded on a picture of Mattei and claimed the attorney tried to frame him. This court has an obligation to protect the attorneys, parties, and the judicial process. In the statement, Pattis said that Jones didn't threaten anyone. Okay. To suggest otherwise is to engage in precious pleading, he said. The families of 6 Sandy Hook Elementary School victims sued Jones for defamation last year over his repeated claims for that the shooting, which left 20 first graders and 6 adults dead, was a hoax. They didn't get into detail on that, but like I don't know if you guys know about this like thing, but like the victims, like the parents of Sandy Hook victims, where their fucking 6-year-olds died. They have been subject to harassment. Many of them have had to move far away from Sandy Hook because they had people tracking them down, stalking them, harassing them, threatening to kill them for being crisis actors or whatever. And so, yeah, this is why this lawsuit's happening. What's the source? This is from NBC News. Yeah, so... All right. So... Yeah. Okay. Now we can get into some Canadian election stuff. So, for anyone who doesn't know, September 20th, Canada is having a federal election. Since I live in Canada, you know, I'm following along with it in whatever capacity. So, start with the fact that one of the news stories this week has been that Justin Trudeau can't really do any of his press events. He's been going around and campaigning because, you know, he's trying to get his majority government for no reason. But one of the things that's happening is everywhere he goes, he's being trailed by right-wing protesters to the point where he's like basically being yelled at constantly. It's really strange. So there's a couple ways to look at it, which is interesting. One of the things is the people protesting him have been shunned by every political party. And the thing here is that, like, Justin Trudeau's using it to try and campaign against anti-vaxxers and anti-mask people, which is a weird thing for him to do because no political party is against vaccines or against masks here in the Canadian federal parliament anyway. So, yeah, Trudeau looks like he's pulling like a Theresa May, but he's like trying to use these protests to sort of overblow the scariness of a potential conservative government, which like stay strong because like what I would point out is that the conservatives and liberals really don't have that many, if any, policy differences between the two of them. So they're trying to use things like capitalizing on these, like, you know, anti-mask or anti-vaccine yahoos and like the ghost of Stephen Harper to try and make the conservatives appear more scary than they are at this point. Or, I mean, they're fucking, the conservatives are scary, but like in no way scarier than the liberals. And that's where we're at. But yeah. That's basically what's going on. He just keeps getting... And yeah, he's taking a real dump in the polls. Let's take a look here. since I know you guys want to see this. People love graphs. This is where they're at right now in the popular vote. Aaron O'Toole's ahead by like 2.1%. And the New Democrats are doing pretty well too. They're way ahead of where they used to be. Seeing a lot of PPC/Maverick ads around town. I've been seeing, there's been very few, but there is People's Party freaking signs showing up too. Which the People's Party of Canada is a white supremacist fascist party that has taken rise under the leadership of Maxime Bernier. So, yeah. Given though, like how this is looking, this is how the seats are projected to turn out. And as you can see, majority government, which is you have to get over 170 seats to get to form over 50% of parliament, which looks like nobody's going to hit. It's going to be another minority government, which means we'll be going to the polls again next year probably. But the Liberals, even though they are behind in the popular vote, still look like they're going to win. And the NDP, though, looks like it's going to make some massive gains. So that's good. So that's sort of the situation we're at now. Will things change much if the Conservatives win? I understand the opposition parties are pretty similar. Like, tangibly, no. Rhetorically, yes. Like, Justin Trudeau will talk about the importance of the climate emergency and then go and buy a pipeline and send the RCMP to bulldoze through indigenous territory to build an oil pipeline. While Aaron O'Toole will say, I'm buying a fucking pipeline. Let's do it. That's basically the difference. The Green Party and New Democratic need to unite. I mean, you could say that, but the Green Party is not really a left-wing party. They're not really social democrats or anything. They're much more if the Green Party, if you look at polls of the Green Party, they're more likely to bend, if they don't vote for the Greens, they tend to vote for the Liberals, not the NDP. That's their number two choice. They're more right-wing than the Green, you probably have this idea of this sort of left-wing Green Party like you see in America or in the UK, but Canada's Green Party is actually kind of right-wing. Why should I hate the Green Party? Canada's Green Party is, first of all, way more into pro-businessy green capitalism type stuff. The second thing is that it has some it's basically tearing itself apart because the leader is a staunch defender of Israel, and the current leader, Anna Marie Paul. And then the third thing is that they've waffled on things like vaccine mandates. They've waffled on things like that's the big one. When it comes to COVID and stuff like that, they are way more cozy with anti-vaxxers than you'd be comfortable with. So yeah, And I would argue that the NDP has a very solid climate change plan. That the Green Party's is good too, but you can get a good climate change plan and get universal pharmacare and adding psychiatric and dental health care to our universal system and all that kind of stuff. Because I would like to stop paying for pills, and I would like it if I needed to see a psychiatrist that I didn't have to spend money. For some reason, our brains and our teeth are the two parts of our body that are still not under universal health care. So that's fun. The luxury bones, right? But the thing about this election, if you guys aren't following this election, the big thing about it is that the Conservatives are moving forward, the Liberals are sliding, and this was a completely unnecessary election that the Liberals cast themselves. So this is blowing up in their face super hard. And so it's kind of funny to watch them try and do this election so that they can secure it in majority government, and then everybody knowing that, and basically people starting to turn on them in huge numbers. Let's watch a video from the news about the election, shall we?
Well, a lot can happen in 16 days, and it sure has. The Liberals called the election with a comfortable lead in the polls, but now those polls show the Conservatives have jumped ahead, and the gap between the two front-running parties is widening. Eric Grenier is the author and publisher of the Writ.ca, and he is running the CBC.
Does Trudeau have the power to call it off? I don't think so.
He's poll tracker. Hey, Eric.
Hey.
Okay, bring us
Because he doesn't technically call the election, the Governor General does.
up to speed. Where do the parties stand now?
Well, we've seen that really just in the last few days, the Conservatives have moved ahead of the Liberals for the first time since the beginning of the pandemic. So let's look at where things stand right now in the poll tracker. This is an aggregation of all the polls that are out there. You can see now that the Conservatives are ahead. They have about 33% support. The Liberals have dropped down to second. They're at about 31.5 percentage points. The NDP still in third at 20%. Their numbers have really topped out at about that level. You have the Bloc Québécois at 6%.
Isn't this a usual strategy to get majority? I mean, yes, but the thing is, they're calling a election in the middle of a pandemic that, like a lot of people are saying that if he were to call a snap election, he should have done it probably next year when we're in a better place with the pandemic. But instead, he decided to call one now in the middle of it so that he could do and like everyone knows, it's like a naked grab for power. He's like trying to argue that it's like we need to have an election to figure out how we're going to move forward on our post-COVID Canada, and it's like the most like weak argument ever.
You have the Greens at 4%. Look at that other number. The People's Party has actually moved ahead of the...
I hope Jagmeet becomes the Prime Minister of Canada. I hope so too. I don't think he will this election, but he's definitely making gains.
Greens. They're currently in fifth place. But really what's been the shift over the last few days and really since the beginning of the campaign is between the Conservatives and the Liberals. And the Conservatives now have that lead in the popular vote.
Okay, that's the popular vote, but the seat projections, of course, something different. Take us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like in 2019, the Conservatives won the popular vote but lost in the seat count. And if we look at where the seat projections are right now, you can see that there's been this movement, this drop for the Liberals, this gain for the Conservatives. Both parties well below the 170 seats needed for a majority government. But right now we're looking at around 143 seats for the Liberals, so that would be a drop.
Jagmeet's with the NDP, right? Yes.
They had 157 in the last election. Conservatives up to 130 seats. The New Democrats, big gain for them. They're currently standing at around 38 seats. Bloc Québécois dropping.
Am I optimistic about the NDP becoming the main opposition in the future? I mean, forever, maybe, but like in like the next like 2 or 3 elections, probably not. Unless the Liberals go like take a real fucking dive in the next few weeks, which we've seen happen. So
a few down to 26 and the Greens at 1.
Because what's it called? The NDP were the official opposition from 2011 till 2015. So it does happen.
But the
Is there a chance to do a coalition to prevent a Conservative minority government? That has been floated in politics before, but like, what's it called? Coalition governments are very uncommon in Canadian politics, to the point where I don't know if they've ever been done. The other thing too is that it's always the Liberals who turn down the coalition government, and it's probably because the Liberals have more in common with Conservatives than they do with New Democrats. Like, here's the big fucking scam of Canadian politics, is that Justin Trudeau's just the latest, but the Liberals always have people convinced that they're like a center-left party. But literally everything they do is right-wing. Like, it's like and they, for some reason, because of like strategic voting, everybody here only votes strategically. It's really stupid. They manage to get like a sizable part of the progressive vote. They essentially do a form of voter suppression where they scare the NDP into forcing them to vote for the Liberals so that they can counter the Conservatives. It's the worst.
Liberals still have a little bit of an advantage in the seat count, primarily because of how it breaks down regionally.
We see Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole, when you speak about regionally in Ontario today. Take us through some of the numbers specific to that province.
Yeah, Ontario is really the key for the Liberals in terms of leading in the seat count, and the Conservatives do need to close the gap on the Liberals there. They want to come out ahead in the seats. So let's look at where things stand in Ontario right now. It is really, really close. 35% for the Liberals in the polls in Ontario, 34% for the Conservatives. At the beginning of this campaign, the Liberals had almost a 10-point lead, so this has been a big, big shift. The New Democrats right now are at 21%, and again, the People's Party is ahead of the Greens in Ontario. Another important battleground is Quebec. There's going to be a French language debate on Thursday, and the numbers could shift in Quebec. We've seen that the Liberals are still holding the lead there. They're at 34%. The Bloc Québécois is 8 points back. They're at 26%. They really haven't built up any momentum this campaign. Both the New Democrats and the Conservatives have picked up a little bit. The Conservatives at 19, the NDP at 13. And we'll go just to BC, because this is one of the places where the Conservatives have made some really important
this is
gains.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and it started out as a three-way race. It's not looking as close this time. The Conservatives are at 34%, and their numbers just keep getting better. And the NDP has actually moved into second in BC, ahead of the Liberals. Both are at about 27%, but the trend lines, as they are really across the country, going up for the Conservatives and going down for the Liberals.
I want to go back to what you're talking about with the PPC. Maxime Bernier is not going to be part of the debates, whether the French language or the English language debates.
He's actually, here's the thing, he's not invited to debates because of our hate speech laws. The guy is a fascist and is like an open white supremacist, and he's doing astonishingly well. As you can see, he's got 5% of the popular vote or whatever, and they don't invite him to the debates because of his hate. And I'm wondering if the Greens will even be invited. How important is it for Canadian politicians to speak French? If you're a federal politician, it's virtually required. If you are a federal politician and if you want to be prime minister, you basically have to speak French. If you want to work in the federal government, you pretty much have to speak French. I don't know if you can get away being an MP who doesn't speak French, but it really depends, I think, more on your riding. Doug Ford doesn't speak French, but he's not a federal politician. He's a provincial politician. But if you want to do anything at the federal level, usually you have to speak French.
And yet he is seeing a climb.
Who will replace Justin Trudeau if he fails to get a majority and the party dumps him as leader? Probably his deputy prime minister, Chrystia Freeland, who wrote a wonderful article about how her uncle was a Nazi or something like that, and it's fun. Chrystia Freeland is probably the next to step up to lead the party, and it's going to be awful because she's trying to brand herself as the hashtag girl boss of the Liberal Party, but is again staunchly right-wing politician, has ties to actual not even far right people, has ties to literal Nazis, World War II Nazis. So it's fun. Do provincial leaders in Canada have as much power as the state leaders do in the US? They have more. Canada's actually very decentralized compared to the United States. Our federal government only manages a handful of things that kind of cover the interprovincial stuff in the military and foreign affairs. But for almost everything, the provincial governments are actually the real deal. And so this is also why the Conservatives winning the federal election, while I guess it kind of sucks, it's not that big of a deal because the Liberals are so similar, but at the same time the federal government's not hugely important. I would be much happier to dethrone Doug Ford next year because that will have more of an impact on my life than who's prime minister. Yeah.
Climb in his popularity and his party's popularity. Why? Where's that coming from?
Well, it's coming from really Ontario, British Columbia, the prairies. These are the areas where the Greens have dropped quite a bit. Not that there's Green Party voters moving over to the PPC, but this is one of the factors here that the Greens are really underperforming and the PPC is going up, and that's why we're seeing that movement at the bottom of the table. It'll be interesting to see if the PPC is going to be able to maintain this kind of momentum, especially since...
Thought Ford died. No, that was Rob Ford, the former mayor of Toronto. Rob Ford died. The current premier is Doug Ford, who is Rob Ford's brother. So yeah, Rob Ford's brother is the premier of Ontario.
debates. Maxime Bernier won't be at the debates, and whether those people will actually go out to vote on election day. But one of the little sidebars to watch in this election campaign, how much of an impact they're going to have, and whether on election night the Conservatives will wish more of those votes had been with them.
Absolutely. The race in real time. Eric Grenier, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Yeah, so this is Eric Grenier. Another thing about him, Eric Grenier actually tries to brand himself as the Nate Silver of Canada, which is sad because Nate Silver is a guy who is always wrong about everything. So that's a hard sell. But he literally he now works for CBC, but before that he actually had a website called 338 or something like that, which was literally trying to do 538, Canada's knockoff of Nate Silver's whole shtick. All right. So. Yeah. Yeah. And on the they kind of downplayed it in the story, but the NDP have been making a lot of gains. Not enough to win the election probably, but enough that it's they're getting somewhere. And so and it's on an and the thing is the Liberals are taking all these hits, these body blows, and it's for an election that they didn't even it's an unforced error. This is literally if you guys remember a few years ago, Theresa May, the former Prime Minister of the UK, hence this is why she's former Prime Minister now, did a snap election to handle Brexit, and they ended up having to do a coalition with the far right North Ireland party in order to form government. And it was an absolute disaster. And it looked like Jeremy Corbyn was just a stone's throw away from taking over the government. But yeah. Those were happier days. But as a Conservative himself, this is going what's it called? Trudeau is hubris is taking him down. 338 Canada still exists. Yeah, it makes sense. How is the NDP? Thank you for the John Barlich for the $2 super chat. The NDP's doing all right. It's getting a lot of gains. Jagmeet Singh has between the two elections, Jagmeet Singh has become a TikTok celebrity, and he has he's become much more of a person, a household name than he was before. Jagmeet Singh is becoming very popular with young people, and he's they're literally a lot of ads are just focusing on Jagmeet Singh and his story and stuff like that. He's very liked. He's very often the most liked party leader. When they do polls, not of who you're going to vote for, but which leader you like the most, he wins fairly often, because Canadians are strategic voters. So there's a lot of people who are would vote NDP if they thought that it would mean anything, but vote Liberal because they're afraid of the Conservatives. It's a trick the Liberals keep pulling on them. So, yeah, Jagmeet is a very likable guy. He kind of did a weird body blow against Nikki Ashton earlier today in Winnipeg, which I wasn't super happy with. I don't know. Matt Lipton's not here, so I'm kind of sad that he doesn't have things to say about it. But in Winnipeg, there's a seat in Winnipeg that is held by a MP by the name of Nikki Ashton, and she is essentially the socialist, the most prominent socialist member of the NDP. She's part of the socialist caucus, and when the last when the last election, not the last election, a couple elections ago, the NDP had a leadership race, and she was one of the contenders against Jagmeet Singh. Then Jagmeet Singh ended up winning. And apparently, Singh was in Winnipeg today doing a speech in her riding, and at his rally, he had two Indigenous speakers come to speak, and at the speech, they surprisingly endorsed the Liberal candidate running against Nikki Ashton, because they said they would always vote for an Indigenous person over a non-Indigenous person. Which is just like, oh man, that was a fucking underhanded move. So, I think it's great how you explain everything. Oh, thank you, Rebecca, much appreciated. But yeah, I didn't like that, but yeah. Nikki Ashton was done dirty when she had an event with Jeremy Corbyn. Yeah. That was not cool. I don't like the way that the party is trying to edge their left flank out of the party for a shot of becoming governing party. It kind of sucks. Alrighty. Another thing that we cover a lot on these streams is green energy technology news. So this is, I haven't read this one, but it looks like this is kind of key technology that's kind of going under the radar these days. So like hydrogen fuel cell technology is a sort of big part of a possible strategy for running like cars and airplanes and stuff like that without making carbon emissions. How it works is there's an amount of electricity made when oxygen and hydrogen atoms sort of bond and turn into water. So this is like a sort of, these fuel cells take hydrogen and oxygen, make water, and the water comes out as exhaust. And so the only fuel, so like for like things that need like, you know, fuel tanks, you can just fill it with hydrogen and run a fuel cell car off of this. The problem that comes up is that making hydrogen is highly inefficient. Right now you use a process called electrolysis, and it is the amount of energy's worth of hydrogen that you get for the amount of electricity you put in is really not that great. So that's basically where we're at that point. Can someone like Stefan Molyneux or his girlfriend be charged with hate speech in Canada? Not really. Our hate speech laws are, if anything, they're usually too weak. And it's more often that somebody who's doing hate speech that ends up getting away with it than people. Like, to really, like, have hate speech be part of your thing, you have to be, like, a straight-up Holocaust denier and, like, release, like, a book about why the Holocaust didn't happen or something. Like, that's the kind of things that you can't do because of our hate speech laws. Can't stay, but I want to support your work. Well, thank you, Ideka Hakubi. I appreciate it. Yeah. So this is the issue with hydrogen fuel cells, right? Like the real like bottleneck of this technology that's stopping it from, and it is being used in a few buses already, but like the real thing that's stopping it from being used in like lieu of like, you know, jet fuel for airplanes or for like a whole fleet of cars is this electrolysis problem. So having used fuel cells for over a century for nearly everything, humanity has triggered a climate crisis. Having used fossil fuels for over a century for nearly everything, humanity has triggered a climate crisis. Now the directive is to achieve net zero emissions or carbon neutrality by 2050. See, hydrogen is really good for like running like vehicles that can't be on the grid, you know? Like if somebody lives in the country, a fuel cell car might be able to, like, there's a couple things. A fuel cell car can more easily be retrofitted. Like you can retrofit an old internal combustion engine car more easily into a hydrogen fuel cell car. And you can convert the gas station infrastructure that we have into hydrogen infrastructure and, you know, just just sort of like convert it that way. So that's why it's like a good technology that people are really interested in. A hydrogen economy is one way in which carbon neutral world can thrive. At present, the simplest way to produce hydrogen fuel is electrochemical water splitting. Running electricity through water in the presence of catalysts, reaction-enhancing substances to yield hydrogen and oxygen. This process, however, is very slow, requires specialized condition and noble metal catalysts, and is overall expensive. Thus, achieving a high hydrogen yield in an energy-efficient manner at a low cost is challenging. To date, hydrogen production from water splitting has not been successfully commercialized. Now, a team of researchers from Pusan National University in Korea, led by Professor Kandasamy Prabhakar, have developed a method to design a novel electrocatalyst that can solve some of these problems. Their work has been made available on April 6, 2021, and will be published in the September 2021 issue of Applied Catalyst B Environmental. Wow. Describing the study, Professor Prabhakar says, today, 90% of hydrogen is produced from steam reforming processes that emit greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. In our laboratory, we have developed a non-noble metal-based stable electrocatalyst on a polymer support which can effectively produce hydrogen and oxygen from water at a low cost from transition metal phosphates. So that was a lot of words, but it's basically a way to make hydrogen from water cheaply, which is a huge deal. This is massive. We're reading about green hydrogen, yes. There's been a really big breakthrough in the hydrogen making process, apparently. Yeah. Professor Prabhakar's team fabricated this electrolyzer by depositing cobalt and manganese ions in varying proportions on a Okay, science. I don't know any of this shit. So, in experiments to test the performance, they found morphology significantly decreases the overall reaction, thereby improving the voltage efficiency of the system. As a testament to durability, even after 40 hours of continuous hydrogen production at blah, 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 its performance remains consistent, and water splitting was possible at low input voltage as pretty low. It's pretty cool. Here's a breakthrough in cancer and HIV treatment as well. I have heard that the technology that was developed to make the mRNA COVID vaccine is going to have a lot of applications for treating HIV and for cancer. So yeah, once the technology that we rapidly advanced in COVID with all of the grant money in the universe is probably going to have some nice ripple effects for biomedical science later on, which is pretty cool. .54 volts is a double-A or triple-A battery. Yeah, that's pretty good. Just like the World Wars. Yeah, I guess. Wasn't the World Wars the reason why we have synthetic rubber? In addition to these advantages is the low cost of transition metals. Indeed, the system can be scaled and adapted for application to myriad settings. Speaking of future possible applications, Professor Prabhakar said, water splitting devices that use this technology can be installed on site where hydrogen fuel is required and can function using a low energy input or a completely renewable source of energy. For example, we could produce hydrogen at home for cooking and heating using a solar panel. This way we can achieve carbon neutrality well before 2050. This is huge. So much so that I kind of want to send it to my friends. Not this. Sorry, this is, I shouldn't have done this in the thing, but I thought that'd be cool. All right. Just wanted to send it to my friend before I forgot. Okay. That's pretty awesome. Next up is this fucking story. I'm sure you guys saw this week. This was like one of the things that came up. A school district opted out of free meals program, saying that the students would, quote, become spoiled by getting food. Jesus Christ. Okay. Here we go. With 2 girls in elementary school and a mother who was a teacher, the Drigenberg house in a Milwaukee suburb has been a joyous, excited about back-to-school season. Until this year when the Waukesha School Board decided to opt out of a federally funded program that would give free meals to all students regardless of income. The board voted June 9th to return to pre-pandemic National School Lunch Program, which offers free and reduced price lunching to students who apply and receive federal money for them. Waukesha is the only eligible school district in the state to issue the funding. Although Dave Drigenberg's children have never qualified for the National School Lunch Program, he said the decision angered and disappointed him because officials seem to be out of touch with the community's needs. It also led to an opportunity, he said, to advocate for change in a city where demographics and attitudes are changing rapidly. We determined to make Waukesha as good as it can be, starting with something as easy as feeding kids. This is a way to not only connect with other parents, but also realizing that change is possible. Jeez. So this is like a thing. I don't have too much to talk about with this. I feel like maybe this could be a video at some point. But one of the things that's happened is that this federal school lunch program, for the record, for like a shocking amount of Americans, their school lunch, this school lunch provided by this program is the most nutritious thing that they get to eat. And for people in poverty, this might be like, sometimes this might be the only meal they get. Breakfast programs and like these kind of like school lunch programs are integral. They are literal lifelines to people who are like, for people who have children who are in like extreme poverty, which is a growing amount of people, and it's getting bigger every day because, everything is getting worse at a slow rate. And so more and more kids are becoming, getting into that. But also, like, you end up with stuff like how, like, schools have a school lunch program where you rack up, like, the schools, like, parents pay for the lunches. And if you're in debt, they've, like, they can't, like, deny kids food because they have a tab. But if they have school lunch debt, they've tried to find, like, more and more cruel and strange ways to try and stop the kids from, or to, like, force the parents to give the money over that they don't have to these, to the schools. And these have been banned. But yeah, this is a huge thing about the politics of America, just fucking feeding children. And the fact that they're, like, doing this, like, this sort of, like, conservative talk about people getting addicted to aid, which is, like, the most shitty and stupid argument to not help people who are in need, is fairly common. And this is just another example of that. Oh, man. Wild fucking story. And yeah, we have the ongoing legacy of horse paste, of course. Horse paste continues. Anyone doesn't know this, I've been talking about this pretty much every week for the last little while. To own the libs, people are injecting themselves or eating fucking horse dewormer to cure COVID, because that is a better option than getting a vaccine. It's led to, it's 70% of all poison control calls in Mississippi. And as we see here, Texas sees a 550% spike in poison calls because people are taking horse and cow dewormer, despite the fact that the FDA is warned to not do this. And there was a case of a doctor who worked in a prison in Washington County in Arkansas who was treating prisoners with this horse dewormer. So that's fun. This is like the next level of just absolute batshit insanity that's coming out of, like, the anti-vax movement. And now I just got some tweets. That's really what I got left. There's this awesome Sean tweet, which a lot of celebrities call cancel culture, is simply them encountering the idea that there are some people who don't like them. Because a lot of cancel culture is just people who have never been criticized before being criticized and not being able to handle it. Especially a lot of white dudes. A lot of white dudes don't really get criticized all that often, and so they can't handle it when people criticize them on the internet, and then they call it a cancel culture. It's fun. And also, the New York Times tried to run another one of these fucking, what's it called? tried to run another one of these articles talking about why we need to all go back to the office and have the Panopticon return. And it's like, there's like this strong manufacturing consent project going on to try and like write these articles, kind of like the millennials. I am millennial, but bought house type articles. But with like, you know, back to school, or with what's it called? With these like, we want to go back to the office, when like polls show that overwhelmingly people do not want to go back to the office. And so it's just like, yeah. Did you hear about the hospital got sued for not administering ivermectin? Oh, fucking Christ. It's the worst. And yeah, COVID's really bad in America, so I'd like, look at, what's it called? They're sending kids back to school when a lot of states in the U.S. are at the point where like they were panicking and trying to get shutdowns to happen a year ago. It's so fun. And also Costco is selling a bulletproof backpack. Isn't that fun? I don't know how I'm handling all of this stuff. This is just like a list of like stories that just made me be like, what the fuck is going on with this world? So yeah, America's going back to its old hobbies of school shootings again. Does anyone really believe COVID exists? I mean, it's killed millions of people, so yes. There are millions of corpses where people used to be. The other thing, too, is a big hurricane has hit New Orleans, and the power has gone out, and apparently the police are pulling out anti-looting bullshit to try and... Sorry, let's just ban this person. The troll. So, these anti-looting like things. Thing is, like, when these disasters happen, looting is, first of all, justified, but second, not really a big deal. And on top of that, this, like, during Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, these, like, the anti-looting focus of the police led to them just straight up murdering a lot of black people. It was fucking awful. Because they were just, like, gun happy. And, like, if somebody died because they got shot, like, they could just write it off as, like, you know, part of the thing. They could just say, oh, the person was looting. And so the New Orleans police used this to just murder shit tons of black people during Hurricane Katrina. So, you know, nobody learned everything. That's fun. Oh, yeah. So, on top of that, President Biden's done some pretty great stuff this week. First of all, standing up to the deep state. Now I can actually say that the QAnon people are pissed off at Joe Biden right now, despite the fact that he's probably the first president to actually stand up to the deep state in, like, decades. That's why, like, the entire media is attacking him right now. That's why, like, the Pentagon, like, he's pissed off the Pentagon, like, all this stuff, because he's pulling out of Afghanistan. And all of the deep state, the sort of, like, which is a term for, like, sort of the non-elected career people who work in the American government, who maintain this sort of, like, imperial footing. And, like, you know, constantly pushing for these, like, forever wars and, like, growing the Pentagon's power and all that kind of stuff. Joe Biden's, like, the first president to stand up to them in, like, decades. It's actually, like, probably one of the best things Biden's ever done. And, like, in his whole life. And probably puts him at the top of pretty much every president I've ever been alive to see. Which is, it's not a high standard, but still, come on. And that's pissed everyone off. But also two more Joe Biden has been doing two other things that have been just great. Which is, first of all, this event. So if you guys see here, this is, I think Gad Uriv is in the chat. I think you recognize this young man, this leader. So this is the Prime Minister of Israel. And if you can see, this is the Prime Minister of Israel is talking in this clip. This is Joe Biden sleeping while the Prime Minister of Israel is talking. Very based. Pretty great. So he's just taking a nap. Just throwing absolute monumental shade at the Prime Minister of Israel. Fucking baller. I have been reading about what is called the male gaze targeting anime Americans. Try to inject their values into Japan's art is cultural imperialism. Okay. I'm not exactly sure. Thank you for the suit, the dingoes there, J-Lord. Not sure what I'm supposed to say to that, though. I don't really know much about anime because I don't like how comfortable it is with the exploitation, sexual exploitation of children, or the images of children. That the sexualization of children in anime makes me very uncomfortable, and that's why I don't watch anime. And I don't really like following it along, so. Biden was not asleep. He was trying to show respect, as is seen in the floor. Listen, you're trying to, like, this is like the people who pointed out that that guy didn't kick over those milk cans, knocking the police officer over. Are you trying to ruin all the good times? Also, yeah, Biden is doing a siestas. Thank you for the $2 super chat. The next one is the other day where he was during a memorial for the troops. Joe Biden was checking his watch. So, fucking very good week. I've never liked Joe Biden more than I have this week. Still don't like him I still hate him, like, a lot. This guy has probably been on the wrong side of history for virtually every single moment of his career, except for leaving Afghanistan. Leaving Afghanistan is literally the only good thing this man has ever done in his life. Everything else, his entire career has been, like, from supporting segregation or anti-busing measures to, you know, the being responsible for the bills that led to mass incarceration. Joe Biden checking his watch during a fucking memorial for the troops. Another fucking primo fucking move. Power move. So, if Biden keeps just, like, you know, being the cottage cheese brain man he is, and he just, like, naps through shitty leaders' talks and disrespects the troops, like, I'm down. That's all I want out of a president these days. Your tax money, by the way. It's not my tax money. My tax money goes to Ottawa. Oh, yeah, and then there's this. Isn't Biden just sticking to Trump's exit strategy? That's what I heard. $5. Thank you for the $5 super chat, Anthony. I think, yeah, pretty much. But also, what's it called? Reactionaries are complaining about that because they want to use as a way to attack Biden. He is the Grandpa Simpson of presidents. Yeah, exactly. All right, I want to show you guys this video. It's pretty great.
Okay, obviously the king.
Okay.
Has more money than us because he works really hard and he's earned. Okay, obviously the king has more money than us because he works really hard and he's earned it. I don't want to have to explain basic economics to you, but you're not taking into account the risk that the king is taking on by starting his own kingdom. Royal innovation. He had a good idea. He's really smart. Why don't you come up with something like the Divine Right of Kings? He's a really good guy. After his last feast, he threw all of his leftovers onto the street and let the peasants fight for the scraps. He's literally giving away free food. He's like lifting people out of serfdom. The king is creating jobs. He's a job creator. You realize most of his money is tied up in the state treasury, right? It's not like in his pocket. If we didn't have a king, where would the incentive be to be born into a noble family? Yeah. You know what? I have tried his boots, and I like the way they taste. Fuck you. Okay,
Fucking rules. Great video. Great time. Good time to be a person. And then, yes, there's this. Also, based as shit video. You ready?
Come on!
I know that apparently it's a trick of perspective, but damn, feels good to watch, to just see that. Let's watch it one more time.
Come on!
That guy did not actually kick the stack. I know. Can you even watch the stream from atop your giant pile of party poop? Don't want propaganda. On the other hand, fuck cops, and it's funny to watch cops fall down. So, this is solid. And yeah, this is the other big thing of the news of the week. Look at this. Actually, you can see it. It's right there. Freaking, let's do this. This arrived last Thursday. Yeah. My 100K play button showed up. Woo. Canada doesn't even have free speech. Okay. Yeah, I guess like we don't have the free speech for you to be a Holocaust denier. But you know what? That's a free speech I can live without. I'm good. I'm real good on that one. If we had no if people can't be Holocaust deniers, then I'm actually happy with that. If you can't openly be a neo-Nazi group in Canada because it's hate speech, yeah, that's fine. I'm cool with that. Yeah, it's communism when you oppose Nazis. All right, get the fuck out of here. Already at 111K. Yeah. Who knows? 200K might happen someday. I did check, and I was like, if I went for the same rate, I would be like, what? I'll be like 60 years old by the time I get to 1 million subscribers. So, all I need is another 30 years, and I can get to 1 million subscribers. Let's do it, everybody. As for... All right, I'm going to take a quick break to go to the washroom. I think we're not going to watch this kind of director's commentary of the latest video, just because it's already 8:14, and we've got a lot of questions to get through. Maybe we'll come back to it if I come to the end of the questions and we still have time. But I'm going to take a quick washroom break. I'll put on some music for you guys, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, everybody, I'm back. Sorry, take a quick break. Yeah, hello. How we doing, chat? Want to say good night to Tristan. Good night, Mia. Thank you for releasing a video. I will be watching it soon, probably tomorrow. Or tonight, who knows. Hello. Yeah. Got a good chat going. Oh, I got a super chat while I was away. Hello. Thank you for the 5 dingoes there, J-Lord. Feudalism was not great, but kings were often more benevolent than capitalists. You should do a video on that. Also, thoughts on tankies. Well, I definitely think that there is definitely like, yeah, the standard of living was a lot higher in feudal times than we like to think. And for most people, like industrialization at first led to a sharp decrease in life quality before it started to get better. And even then, like, you know, your average peasant had more free time than we do today. So that is a thing that is worth mentioning. And the other one was what my thoughts are on tankies. I have softened quite a bit on them. I'm in the kind of camp right now with there are what people call tankies is like a huge, like, you know, breadth of people that range from people who I, you know, have respectful disagreements with, but are at the end of the day, at this point in the, you know, socialist project, are allies, because in every single thing that we're dealing with, we're on the same side. And that, you know, I long for the day that we have to deal with the issues of like anarchism versus Marxist, or what's it called, Marxist-Leninism or something like that. I long for the day when that's actually an issue that we have to deal with. When right now, like, you know, Canada's just trying to, like, I'm in Canada, we're just trying to get some like basic social democracy at this point. So, you know, there's that. But then there are some people who are like, who would also fall under like probably like the tanky category, who I think are more just like reactionary assholes who are also just happen to be leftists. Like, there is like the people who push like a lot of conspiracy theories. I'm really not a fan of. The people who show up a lot on Russia Today, I'm not really a big fan of. Like people like Jimmy Dore, who, you know, push horse paste on people while also spreading conspiracy theories, trying to prop up brutal dictators like Bashar al-Assad. And people who conflate the idea that everybody who's opposed to America is by that nature instantly good and somebody that we should support, and that anything they do that is bad needs to be rejected. So that's like, yeah, those that go to Burger King. Yeah, exactly. But, you know, the Marxist-Leninists, like, it's not, like, hard to see some of their points on things. Not that I agree with them, but, like, you know, like, we've seen, like, what the centralized planned economy has done with, like, how China has, like, just, like rocketed to the fucking moon over the last few decades, while the United States, you know, spent its years... spent like 20 years blowing all of its money on like wars in the Middle East. China like built a massive middle class and is now like toppling the United States as the most powerful country on earth. And like, you know, like, so that, you know, that's at this point though, I'm in a very strong position of just, when it comes to 99% of the issues that we have to deal with right now, tankies are more or less on our side for everything, so we'll just kind of go from there. when what's it called? I long, like I said, to finish off with where I started. I long for the day where the difference between a Marxist-Leninist and an anarchist means anything in actual politics right now. You know what I mean? All right. So let's do some of these questions. All right. First question comes from Matt Lipton, who's sadly not here. Is it weird that I get annoyed at Americans talking shit about the French? Like just saying France sucks or the French are cringe or the like. I don't know if it's because of the fact that I respect aspects of French history or because I know anti-Francophone sentiments are common amongst English conservatives here in Canada, but it gets under my skin somehow. So yeah, there is that, like, anti-French shit in the U.S. it hits different for Canadians because we have a kind of like English chauvinist current that runs through a lot of English-speaking Canadian conservatives. You know, you got your J.J. McCullough, who basically is a English supremacist, and like, yeah, it's real weird, and is very nasty for like our country specifically. But like, I mean, most of the time I just like ripping on the French too, because they were a brutal colonial empire that oppressed a lot of people of color around the world and still do to this day. And yeah, they're irredeemable in that sense. But yeah. Would you interview NDP candidates on your live stream? Sure. I don't know if NDP candidates would want to go on my live stream. I have a feeling that I'm a little too off-brand for the NDP as they want to push themselves right now. Love your YouTube content, and I'm glad to hear you. Do you get you play button? Thank you, White Orbison. Much appreciated. All right, next one. We got Orange Man. Is Orange Man here? We'll find out. How do you compare someone that is popular on Twitch to someone who's popular on YouTube? I noticed a while that Hassan Piker has only 1.4 million followers on Twitch. He gets as many current views on his streams as an active YouTube streamer with 6 to 8 million subscribers. Only streamers I watch on Twitch also seem to get more current views than any YouTube streamer of any similar subscriber count. That's a good question. I honestly don't have an answer. I don't know how you would compare, you know, how big a YouTuber is compared to how big a streamer is. I don't actually... It's interesting, but I don't really have an answer, because most of the time when you look online to sort of like comparative metrics and stuff like that, it's usually compared with money. Like, I remember recently reading an article that like 1 million followers on TikTok is worth about as much as 100,000 followers on YouTube. But that is sheerly when it comes to money. When it comes to like clout and reach, I don't know. Because yeah, Hassan Piker has like 1.4 million subscribers or followers, which is like a big deal. Like if a YouTuber, like a YouTuber who has 1.4 million subscribers is a big YouTuber, but not like, you know, like colossal. But at the same time, like Hassan Piker got shit for buying a house recently, and it fucking made the news. So he's obviously a lot more like, you know, he's got a lot more breadth to his, you know, clout than a lot of people do. And you also got stuff like how, like, there are, like, for example, like, there are YouTubers who have fewer subscribers than me, but their videos, on average, do way better than mine. Like, it's all relative in weird ways. Hey, thank you for the subscriber. Dialectolysis, nice. Much appreciated. Have you ever considered joining the YouTuber-owned Nebula or the worker-owned Means TV? I am a member of Means TV. They never asked me for more content like they have other people, but I am on Means TV, yes. I'm a member of Means TV. So Nebula is owned by a group called Standard. And Standard is run by like 3 people. It's run by like Kurzgesagt and CGP Grey and like one other person that I don't know. And I know a lot of people who are involved with Standard and on Nebula, but and like I would say yes if they ever asked me, but the thing about Standard and Nebula and stuff like that is that it's more like they decide to reach out to you. You don't really join them. So I gotta get my word in and try and get picked up by them, which I don't know if I will. It's a networking thing. Hey, thank you for the 2 dingoes. Am I a Quentin Tarantino fan? Yeah, kind of. I'm not like a big fan. There are Quentin Tarantino movies I like. There are Quentin Tarantino movies I don't like. Like, I think I don't really like Reservoir Dogs. I don't think it's I don't like the movie. I'm sure there are people who love it, so obviously, like, it's got good craft and stuff. I also wasn't a really big fan of the Kill Bills. Didn't really hit me all that much. But, like, I liked Pulp Fiction. I liked Django Unchained. I liked Inglourious Bastards. I haven't seen the more recent one, but I guess fan is a bit of a strong thing. He has a very distinct style, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Was reading an article from... So next up we got Matt Lipton. Was reading an article from Anti-Hate Canada on Alberta's TERF groups, and they drew a connection between modern TERFs and a lot of early suffragettes who were okay with killing disabled people and saw non-white women as subhuman. Anything you'd like to add to that observation as a historian? That kind of makes sense. There is like a sort of like... I don't know, like there's one way to look at it, which is, yeah, there is always a group of like white feminists, women who were willing to throw other people under the bus for their own advancement. And you could definitely say that in many ways third wave feminism was about addressing that, and that a lot of TERFs are actually from like the second wave of feminism, and they kind of stuck to it and are sort of a reaction against third wave feminism. Hey, thank you for
2 years, baby.
Aw, man. Thank you so much, Thought Slime, for the 2 years of subscriptions. That's so nice. We were just talking about a very fun subject, fucking TERFs. Sweet Nerd Tincture, thank you. Yeah, I think I got the last one of these. Yeah, so there is like that angle that you could talk about, like if you were to talk about TERFs in like where they fit in academic feminism, they are sort of this like old holdover of the second wave feminist project. That sort of second wave feminism was sort of this like trend in feminist like academic feminism from like the 1960s until about the early 90s, and then there was like this event called the Sex Wars, which was basically a big debate over the role of sex workers and prostitution and pornography, and like whether or not these are misogynistic or whether or not, women can, be sex workers and not be oppressed. And that kind of disagreement led to what most people would call like third wave feminism, which is sort of what we're in right now, which is sort of about acknowledging intersections of different identities and like trying to understand that women have different experiences and can and what progress is for women is, having choice over what they do with their lives, not necessarily just doing the list of things that are conceived as like, the girl boss type thinking. And that TERFs kind of come from a reaction against that movement. That's why a lot of TERFs are also SWERFs, which is a term for sex worker exclusive radical feminists. And then they also come from the branch of feminism, which is radical feminism, which is feminism that goes outside of just mere activism and gets into like theory and stuff like that with like trying to essentially break down the idea of gender altogether in sort of like an academic theory sense, which is like, interesting and whatnot, but it's sort of detached from, conditions in real life. And there's some wonky stuff. The other way you can look at it too, which is not wrong, when you see like, when you see TERFs taking sides with like the Taliban, when they're talking about, the Taliban might be bad, but at least they hate trans people, and like saying that like it's a good thing, like that's a good sign as any to also know that TERFs have sort of drifted away from their origins and have in no way represent an actual feminist movement at this point. I mean, throwing trans women under the bus was also the first sign that they weren't really into feminism and advancing, gender equality. But at this point, I think they've just completely detached and become a hate group. But that's sort of the like origins, I guess. All right, next up we got, I know I asked a similar question last month, but what's with both all that happened in Afghanistan now? Do you think the idea of possibly reinvading the nation after withdrawal is complete will become a talking point of the Republicans and possibly some Democrats? I mean, it's not a could it become, it's already become one. Like, the Republicans are saying that we withdrew wrong, but like you can tell like from like journalists who are talking about how like, oh, this is the greatest human rights like failure in history, and like we should have stayed forever, and like Tony Blair writing articles that are some like we're already pretty much at a point where the like reinvading Afghanistan will definitely be a thing that the deep state will want, and also a lot of people will want. But also it might translate away from like a mass invasion, and it might be just like a drone bombing campaign, which is much more likely. I have a feeling that we're like gonna see a lot less of like, because Americans are kind of like not interested in wars anymore, and it seems like, because like that's the reason why nobody's like saying we need to straight up invade Afghanistan again, because polls show it's very unpopular to like wars. People are very tired of wars, and they're very unpopular. So I'm thinking that the American grand strategy is going to move away from these sort of like invasions and occupations that have a long history of just not working, and moving towards targeted drone strikes as their way of showing force around the world. Does that mean that the U.S. Armed Forces will be a lot safer in the future? I mean, probably, yeah. But the thing about drone strikes is that they come with a lot of civilian casualties. Like, what's it called? There was a person who just recently went to prison under the Espionage Act because he leaked that, like, 90% of drone strikes kill innocent civilians as well as their target. And, like, the thing is, like, they can kill more civilians and they can do that kind of stuff because, for the large part, when it comes to, like, corporate media and Americans in general, the deaths of people on the other side of the world don't, like, matter. And so they can get away with killing innocent people with drone strikes on countries that they're not even at war with. I mean, shit. Look at what that bombing that happened in Afghanistan last week. Like, all of the news stories about it are about the, like, 12 servicemen who died, and there's, like, nothing about the, like, 90 Afghans who died. So, yeah. It's gonna be a whole thing. How will the right deal with that, not having people who can say, I fought for your freedom in whatever country? I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with it. All right, next up. What are some real turning points in history where it was possible that stuff could have easily went different and radically altered history? My choice is the Battle of Hastings, where the consequences affected even the English language. That's a decent one. I always think of... what's it called? There's a few. The big ones that come to mind are Stanislav Petrov. That's probably the biggest turning point in history, if you guys know about Stanislav Petrov. He passed away a few years ago. But does anyone know the story about him? I'm sure somebody in the chat does. But Stanislav Petrov is probably the only person on Earth who's literally saved the world. He was a Ukrainian member of the Red Army who was recovering for somebody else watching, watching for basically watching the radar stations that watch for nuclear missile launches in the United States. And his missile launch detector went off, and looking at it, it looked like the United States had launched a full-out nuclear strike against the Soviet Union. But he did not report it to his superiors against orders because he thought it might have been a false positive. And it turned out it was. It was a computer glitch. But because of how it was a very tense time in the Cold War, and because of the sort of bits of nuclear, because of how nuclear war works, the way that the Soviets would have responded is, the idea is you need to fire, if you see missiles flying, you got to return fire as soon as possible. You don't have time to think and to verify. You have to just go. And that would have led to World War III. And it probably would have led to a giant nuclear exchange that probably would have drastically changed life on Earth as we know it. So that was a moment that was major turning point in world history. And if Stanislav Petrov had done his job, would have probably ended a good chunk of life on Earth. So Stanislav Petrov literally saved the world with his work. The other one is another one that comes up when people talk about big turning points in history is, I want to say, what the hell is his name? Was it King Darius, the Persian king? Let me just find out. Yes, King Darius. So King Darius or Cyrus. King Cyrus, yes, that's it. King Cyrus the Great. So this is one of the most important people in understanding the way the world works today. The world would be fundamentally different if it wasn't for one action of this king, and that was he had to deal with the fact that there was a major diaspora of Jews who had been pushed out, they had been pushed out from Judea, and they were this diasporic group that was essentially fading away from existence. And Cyrus the Great managed to send the Jews back to Jerusalem and back to the modern day Israel. And if that hadn't have happened, it's fairly likely that Judaism probably would have petered out. And if that had happened, it was far back enough that there would have not been any. There would the Abrahamic religions might have just ceased to exist. Yeah, Cyrus the Great is in the Torah for this. Yes. So that's an interesting part of history that if Cyrus had not done that, it would have majorly changed history. Who knows what would have been the dominant religion in the world if Christianity and Islam just never existed, and Judaism also just disappeared. He was also the first to codify a concept of human rights. That's cool. Why are there so many history YouTubers who focus just on historical weapons and battles? I mean, this is a thing that happens in a lot of history, even in the discipline. Wars are a lot of people, especially men, get into history because of its coverage of wars. Wars are, when it comes to like studying the past, one of the easier things to look into because wars have a definitive beginning, a definitive end, they have a purpose, they have sides and everything like that. And, you know, people are we have a culture that glorifies violence. So historical ways of you know, historical methods of violence are a common thing that is covered by them. Yeah, because it's easy. And also because a lot of popular history, you know, the history that's done, like, you know, on television and stuff like that, is typically wars, which means that, you know, the media that inspires people to become historians overwhelmingly is made up of coverage of wars. And that leads to a lot of people who want to go in and become military historians themselves. I never saw the appeal, but yeah, that's basically a thing. And yeah, a lot of, yeah. I heard some call the situation in Afghanistan America's Dunkirk. Is there any sense to this? I don't know. I don't like comparing things like that in many ways. Could you save that Mike Duncan question for Mia? I guess. Good. I don't have to, one fewer Rome question I have to answer. That's great. I'm happy. Fucking Rome hits my brain like Xanax. Okay. Like, it's just like, okay, yeah, it's cool. It's a bunch of very, very overhyped people who sat around and brushed their teeth with piss. It's like, okay, yeah, whatever. Don't. And committed cultural genocide on all of the, like, indigenous peoples of Europe for the most part. Killed all the druids. Is it possible to give progressives parents the right to homeschool their kids so they can give them no pro-state/capitalist education without also giving right-wing fundamentalist parents the right to homeschool their kids so they can indoctrinate them? I really hate evangelicals who keep their kids at a regular school because they're afraid to let them learn about evolution or gay people, but I'm not sure it would be legally possible to stop them without also making it so progressive parents can't homeschool because they disapprove of grading and teaching kids with nationalistic lies. Yeah. Turns out freedom's complicated like that, isn't it? COVID is a hoax and no one's died from it? Jeez. I mean, half of the radio shows you listen to have had their hosts die from it. Mr. Tucker. I mean, Milo Yiannopoulos looks like he's going to die from it. I don't know if that's true, but could. There's like an entire Reddit subreddit of the freaking Herman Cain Awards. Okay. The Milo thing might be faked. Aw, that's depressing. Alright, suppose there was a massive general strike in the U.S. for social democratic reforms like Medicare for All and so forth. What do you think is more likely? The strikers meet their demands, the strikers get arrested en masse, and the government passes laws that allow criminals to be forced to work as basically indentured servants. I mean, this one already exists, so... And this is basically how the government reacted to the Black Lives Matter protests. So, number two, for sure. Unless like it's like a breaking point where the government literally can't arrest people en masse, like they literally don't have the resources to stop all the people who are standing up for all these reforms. But for the most part, yeah, like. Will I do more religion videos? Maybe. I do have a Patreon stretch goal that I think I'm supposed to do a video on Scientology at some point, so that's one. And now that I'm at 100,000 subscribers, I'm not so much worried about rapidly growing my channel anymore. So maybe I will return to some of the religion videos if there's some that... The problem is that I was doing the religion videos, and then freaking Cogito basically did them all. So Cogito pretty much has the corner, has the market cornered on the religion videos. And so I got to think of like a new angle. So I'm thinking if I'm going to go back to the religion series, I'm going to do more like small fringe or extinct religions. All right. Suppose you work in a hotel and the manager tells you have to watch out for poor and homeless people who aren't guests coming into the hotel to get free food from the breakfast buffet and throw them out. Would you be comfortable doing that? Apparently some of the Step Back Discord recently found themselves in that situation. That sucks. I would probably do the like sandwich man thing, where if I was in that situation, I would be finding some way to funnel food out to the people. Am I still thinking of doing a CyberSyn video at some point? Actually, it's on the list of options for the Patreon poll that I have going for what my November video is going to be. And at this moment, it's winning. So I could be doing one in November. So there's that. But yeah, when it comes to this whole homeless situation, I would try to find some way to, if I knew I wasn't going to get caught, I would let them get food. But more often, I think to prevent everybody from getting in trouble, I would probably find some way to make sure that food gets to homeless people through my work. You know, like there's a lot of times where when you work in like a food industry thing, where you have to throw out a whole bunch of perfectly good food. And if that was the case, I would just go and give that to the homeless people, because like a lot of times your boss will tell you to throw it in the garbage, and I would be like, no, I would probably try to find some clandestine way to get it to just, you know, average folks. And let's see. I imagine you're staunchly against the death penalty. Yeah. So dictators who've committed crimes against humanity would be one exception to that. A while back, I watched a Twitch debate about the death penalty, and one of the panelists said she was generally against the death penalty, but okay with somebody killing someone, Hitler, because as he was alive, even in jail, he would have been someone for neo-Nazis to rally around. Like, even in jail, someone like that is a danger as long as they're alive. It's not a bad call. I really hope that I'm never in that situation where I have to make that call, is the big thing. Because I do think that I do have a perverse need to see no human being as completely unredeemable. But yeah, there are people who even in prison could be you know, just their existing rallies a movement that could, you know, undermine and destroy society, and that's bad. I don't know. I don't have an answer, honestly. You've been going through questions faster lately. Is that because I've been annoying you lately? I didn't think I was just answering the questions. I don't have what's it called? Typically my answers are long when I like find some sort of thread to pull on, and I want to, like, you know, I was also kind of worried about getting all these done by the time the stream ended, which is in 9 minutes, so I can relax a little bit, but I just don't have like a ton to say, and so, you know, some questions are quicker to answer. All right. You're paranoid, I've noticed. I think you missed my chat. Did I? Sorry about that. Well, thank you for this. Thank you for the super chat. Kaisar Frederick III not smoking and dying of lung cancer. Therefore, no World War I, no World War II, no communism, no fascism, no Russian Revolution, no Cold War. Kaiser Frederick III? Who is Kaiser Frederick III? This some German guy? Oh, Kaiser, the German emperor. Okay. And he died? He died of what? Or not smoking and dying of lung cancer. So he died of lung cancer, and then his successor, Wilhelm II, was the guy who started World War I. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. European history, just like Roman history, fucking Dramamine in my brain. Okay. All right. You don't normally want to give food to homeless people standing outside your restaurant because then they'll be out there all day. We used to deliver our stuff to the local shelter. I mean, these are human beings we're talking about. And if you're just like an employee at a hotel, like I wouldn't care about homeless people hanging around the business. It's not my business. I would be focused on trying to get food to people who are hungry. That I feel like is a bigger deal than people hanging around. They're human beings. They're not garbage. You know how most people want to like the culture where they grew up in, like out of a desire for comfort and or nostalgia. Is that like a desire or a feeling you experience at all? A few streams back you said you don't give a crap about Canadian culture, and it made me wonder if part of the reason you became radically left-wing at such a young age has something to do with you lacking the thing that most people want to believe the society they live in is good. Maybe. I think there's something to that. I think it has more to do with the fact that, like, the age when people get into that kind of stuff, because, like, when you're like a child, you don't give a shit about what country you live in. You know, you just grow up with what's around. And, you know, I definitely got into, like, oh, proud to be Canadian stuff when I was, like, a kid and stupid. But, like, the time when you, like, actually, like, absorb ideas about, like, patriotism and nationalism and things like that, and pride in your culture and everything like that, was around the time that I discovered leftist politics. And so that kind of supplanted the, you know, the drive. So, like, instead of, like, you know, the kind of nationalistic education, I read a bunch of leftist shit because I had a high school teacher who gave me a, what's it called? I had a teacher in high school who was like, you should read this book about how America is basically an empire, and it basically changed the course of my life. So it's weird because he was a teacher, but he wasn't even my teacher. He wasn't even my teacher, and also I never took a class with him. He just knew who I was, and he said, and I started saying some stuff, and he was like, "Oh, you should what's it called? You should read this book." And I loved it, and yeah, basically became a leftist. Basically opposition to American imperialism is what made me a leftist. So, like the Iraq War and stuff like that. What was the name of that book? Oh, I can find it for you. It's called Rogue Nation, An Introduction to the America the Rest of the World Knows, or something like that. Let me find the name of the book. Yeah, okay. It is called Rogue Nation, The America the Rest of the World Knows. It's by Peter Scowen. I'll put the name in the chat. Do you think it's a shame that religions go extinct? Not necessarily. Like, there is something to, like, you know, there's something sad about, like, the loss of our cultural diversity when, like, kind of like when religion, or not, like, religion going extinct is sort of like the, like, when a language goes extinct, you know? Like, there's something sad about, like, how we're becoming more culturally homogenous. But, it's not like, it's sad, but I don't think it's like, it doesn't ruin me, you know? It's not like a... Did the Romans invent European imperialism? I mean, kinda. They were the first big empire, right? Religions are just fandoms before there were fandoms. Like, religions are a wonderful, like, because the thing is, like, religion in general tends to represent, like, connections that people have with their culture and their history and, like, the deep past. You know, religion can often, like, religion as, like, a set of, like, rituals and sort of like a framework for like how you structure your lives and things like that. It's like this this actual tangible tether to the past. Like, Catholics are part of a religion that like follows an institution that has been around for millennia, and like that's crazy. I think that's wild, and the different belief systems of the world sort of represent, like, you know, the diversity of human culture and the many different ways that you can be a person in this world. And yeah, so when like small religions go extinct, there is something a little sad about that. But also, you know, can't really force people to be of a certain religion. You can't, what's it called? You can't force people to either be a certain religion or abandon religion without killing a lot of people. And it's not really a thing that I think we should be in the business of doing. Is there any leftist groups I'm repulsed by? Fans of Jimmy Dore. I don't know if that's a real group. I can't think of like a group that actually repulses me. Maybe the National Bolshevik Party? But is that really a leftist group? I don't know. Voshites? I guess. I don't know if Voshites is Vosh. There are people who like Vosh, and I completely don't understand why. But there are fans of Vosh that I don't hate, even though I think, you know, he's a massive pseudo-intellectual. Remember I said I couldn't find any info about how the Persian Empire's economy worked? Do you think that would have been different if I could Google in Arabic? Maybe if you could Google in, what's it called? Maybe Arabic, maybe, what the hell is their language called? Wow, Persian. Whatever the Persian language is called. Why is it? It's escaping my mind right now. I haven't. Oh, goddamn. There's a lot of languages spoken in Iran. It's just Persian. Farsi. Farsi. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. That's how you know things are going great. All right. But yeah. That's where we're at. Yeah, someone just said, you think it wouldn't be bad that if there was no religion, only one language. While there are some things where that would make life a lot easier on this planet, I feel like it would also erase a lot of the, you know, the diversity and the beauty that this planet has for people. Alrighty, but that is a thing to say where I am actually, it is 9 o'clock. So this is the time when I finish the stream. This one felt good. It felt really like it wasn't padded out or anything, so I think we did all right. Let's raid left flank vets. Where is... And yeah, I'll be back on Thursday with the Thursday discourse. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other. We'll see you with Mia. Everybody, just be nice. I'll see you around.